Welcome everyone, and in this video we're going to look at Excel and how to do a simple plot in Excel and how to edit the graph. So I'm not really concerned about the data I have here. This is just some generic nonsense I made up, and because I want to get to editing of charts and graphs, etc., so that you know how to tweak every aspect of that. So let's say, for example, we did some measurements. So you see, I read this in by hand. It's just random time intervals, seconds, so 1 second, 2 seconds, up to 10 seconds. And we measured the temperature in Kelvin in our first run, so meaning the first experiment, and the second run in a second experiment. Okay. Now we want to see what the relation is in terms of time. So in other words, how does the temperature change over time? So how are we going to do that? We're going to need to plot the data. So the temperature data is going to be our y-axis data, and the time data is going to be our x-axis data. So to insert a graph into Excel, you need to go to Insert, and then you go to Charts here in the middle. You click there, and you do Scatter Chart. Of course, you're more than welcome if you can do the select and charting skills. That's also appropriate, but if you don't know, this is what you have. So now you've done that. Then this should appear. It's a blank canvas. Then at the top, if you click on the white part that just appeared, it should give you chart design and format. If you click on chart design, you can go down here. There's chart layouts, chart styles, and data. So then you say select data. In the select data pop-up box, you need to say add your data. So there's a series name. So that series name is going to be run 1. Our x values are these values, so then you drag them. So just to make sure that you saw what I did. So you click in the x values box, you click there, you hold in the mouse on the left key of the mouse, and you drag it to the 10. Alternatively, you can also read it in if you would like. Then we go to the y series values, you just take that out, and you add this data. Okay, and then it gives you a plot of that. So to add the second series of data, we just add again. So our series name, we click there on run 2. The x series values, you highlight that. The y series values. Oops, and there you see I made an error because I didn't remove that. So let's just remove that quickly. And there we have both of them. Okay. Alternatively, you can also just drag things. So you can drag that and that. And then you say insert, scatter plot. And then immediately it drew both of them for you. Okay. So from this, we can see that there is a linear correlation, right? And how do we determine the exact linear correlation here? Once again, you click on the graph. So I've left-clicked on the graph, and then we go to the chart design. So it should immediately take it to you to there, but let's say, for example, you're not there. Then you can go there, and you go to quick layout, and you go to this box, layout number 9. You're looking for the one that says f of fx. It should have something like that over there. And now it's given us two functions. All of a sudden, it's giving us the linear trends for our data. So we're just going to enlarge the graph a bit. So click there, drag it, make it a bit larger. Let's now zoom in a tad to the graph so we can nicely see it. Okay. Then to know which trend line matches with which series, this trend line matches with 1. 1 is blue, so it's the bottom one. So you can click and drag. Same with this one, click and drag. And now we know exactly which one is which. Okay, so what aspects of this chart would we like to change? Well, firstly, there's never a chart title. I don't know why Excel provides you with this. This is probably for presentations and different companies or whatever. But in scientific writing, we never have a chart title. You will have a figure caption instead. So in your Word document, you're going to put a figure caption at the bottom here, instead of the chart title. So you can delete that. So basically all I did there was I clicked. You can also say delete, or You click on it and you say delete on your keyboard. Then the next aspect of this chart that I don't like, so you see these little lines and these big thicker lines in the middle. They are also of no use. You never use them. So you can say delete, and you click on those and you can say delete. So now you have a nice white background to your plot. Okay. The next aspect that I usually hate, so if you just click away from the graph, you see there's a gray border around the graph, right? So how do you get that away? You need to click on the graph, and you're going to right click, and then you say format chart area. This pop-up box will appear, and here you want to look at border. You want to say no line. Okay, that's then going to remove your border. So when you're going to copy this figure now to Word, you won't be able to see where it sits. Unless you want that, it's probably personal choice, but I don't know of any journals that want to see that. Okay, now next very important thing that we need to change. Let's say, for example, you don't like the colors blue and orange. Okay, you want red and green. Let's just say. So we click on, let's start with the blue one because that's number one. Our blue one, right click here, format trend line. And now this box will open. So left click, right click, format trend line. So this is to format the line. Okay, so remember the line is the actual line, so the formatting line. Just click there, we see there's no other options for us. Okay, so you can say no line, you can say solid line, and then or gradient or whatever you would like to use, but you can play around with that. So that is how you format your trend line, and you can basically just make sure there, so you can make it a connected line. You can have the different kind of dashes over there. You can do whatever you would like with this. I usually like the full line, and let's do the same thing for that one. We want a thick line. And also we said we wanted them red and green, so this one we want green, and this one we want red. But now you see our dots haven't been colored. So why weren't the dots colored? Well, the simple reason is because we clicked on edit the trend line, and we can do the same for the data series. So you can click on the dots, you can also click here on that one, right click, okay, no, double click on the legend entry, or click on the dots, and then you're going to say format data series. So remember, previously it said format chart area or format trend line. Now we're going to format the data series. And here you're going to always go to the little painter thing, the paint can, and this is a red one, so we want it red, but this is just the border. You see, it's the borders. If we're going to click it away, now we have blue dots with red outsides, which looks kind of funny. So we're just on the trend line again. We're on the line. We go to marker, we go to fill, and we can change that. So now we have a nice red one. We do exactly the same for the green one, the marker, we want green, and that's the fill, and the border also needs to be that green. Okay. You can also, if you click on it, you can change the marker. So you can do the built-in ones. There are different types, so you can change it to squares or like dashes or a picture if you want to insert a picture. So there's some icons that you can also click on, and you can, let's say, just to be funny. So there you see, now we have that. That looks terrible, so let's just change it back. We're changing it back to Excel's default style because that looks nice. Okay. Now we've already changed a lot of things, right? And we haven't even started with all the things you can change. The next thing is you see these plot lines that Excel gives you is gray, is a light gray. And I've never seen a plot uglier with light gray. Anyway, so Once again, you click on the axis, so you can click on the numbers here, you say format axis. Now it's going to give you axis options, which we'll get to again later, but we're now looking at fill and line. So line, you see it's gray at the moment, we just want to make it black. And you can adjust how thick you want it to be. Usually 1 point, 2 points is a good place to start. You do the same for the x-axis. Immediately takes you to this one because that's where you were. Make it, and you make it 1 point. Okay. Again, now our numbers here are actually light gray. Once you see it with the black, you can see the gray as well. This you can change by clicking on the axis again, going home. Click there, not there, sorry. There, change it to automatic, change it to black. You can also change the font here to whatever you would like to change it. So whatever your typeface font is you're using in your document, please just make sure that your things are normal or the same fonts throughout. Same with this one, we want to make it black. And yeah, so you see our plot is already taking shape. Also with the trend line, we can make that black. That is black as well. And now we get to the axis titles. So this was time T. Okay. And you see that's also this ugly light gray. Seconds. We'll make that black, bold, and this one we can type there. This is temperature T in Kelvin. Okay, and we can bold that and make it black. Okay. So doesn't this already look 10 times better than what Excel initially produced for you? I'm just going to remove this for the time being to show you how to insert it later. Then if you click on the plot area like that, you see it's going to highlight a rectangle or square, depending on whatever size your graph is, here in the middle. You can also format that. So format plot area, again, border, the moment it says automatic. So let's change that to solid line and see what it does. So this changed that now you have a border around your graph. Okay, and you can also adjust what the thickness of that border is, like so. Okay, now you see these little lines look kind of stupid of where the axes are. So let's say we want to change that. We change the axis at this option. Not that option, tick marks. So you go to the little, I don't know, it's a histogram. So you click on the axis, format axis, click on the histogram, not the axis options, tick marks. We don't want any major tick marks. And you put off the tick marks. Do the same for this axis and none. Okay. So I think this chart is taking shape nicely. You can, of course, now that I've introduced you to all the ways that you can format it, you can play around with what you want. So you can italicize things, you can color this area, you can fill it with light gray or light blue or whatever you would like to do. You can format all sorts of different things. The only thing that I still want to show you, that's very important, is how to add the trend of the legend. So if you click on the chart and there's at the little plus, so you can also add the trend lines here, you see, if you didn't want to do it the other way around. And we can add a legend. So there's a legend, it pops up. Then you add the legends. Now it tells you exactly what it is. But you see the legend has the same problem as before. This is light gray font or colored. Just make it that. And you can make it bold. You can edit the legend whichever way you would like. You can also fill it by saying format legend. Now you see a nice thing. You can put it on top, put it at the bottom, put it to the left, to the right, or the top right, wherever you would like to place it. You can also fill it again if you would like to do something like that, or you can add a nice border around your legend. Okay, so I think this takes you through enough of the things that you need to edit. So please take some care and time to edit your graphs. Don't just put the thing in your document what Excel gives you, because that's ugly. We don't like ugly things. You can also, just as a final point, so you see at the moment it has a white background, right? And that's what we put it at in the beginning. But here you can say no fill, and then you can make it transparent. You see, so you can put it over things. Whereas previously, if it remained white, and I put it over those letters or those numbers there, you could not see them. But now if we say no fill, then there's transparency, which is great. Also just make sure that your legend is then set to no fill over there. Okay, good. So now we want to transfer this graph to Microsoft Word. So I would advise you edit your graphs in Excel, because you can always edit them in Word as well. But then if, let's say, for example, you wanted to, this was a mistake and this had to be 230, then you can't change it. You have to reformat it if you've already copied it to Word. Now you have your formatted graph, you've changed that, and everything's updated here in Excel, and you can just copy it. So now click on your graph, say copy, Control C, whichever way you would like. Remember, I like narrow margins. And you say Control V or paste. It's exactly the same. And here we see our Excel graph. Of course, remember, now you're going to add a figure caption. You're going to say figure, and this is going to be a let's make it the variation of temperature over time as monitored by a thermometer in a water bath, which is a complete lie, because these Kelvin temperatures will freeze a water bath. But okay, so now you have that, and I've shown you how to insert your equations. So, for example, the top one there says y equals 30.424 x plus 176.67. So there you have your equation from there, and of course you can write, you can number your equation. We've gone through all those kinds of things. And now you have your Excel graph in here. Okay, so that's as easy as that. So format it in Excel, copy it over, give it a nice name. Just always make sure that these kinds of things look appropriate, right? So for the size of the graph, you can have that. Always make sure that if you're able to plot things with similar data on one graph, rather do that. Okay. Now the final thing that we need to discuss, and actually I just forgot about it, so we're just going to do that now, is you see there's a lot of white space here on the sides of your graph. So how do you change that? So once again, we go back to the axis, left click on the axis, say format axis, and go to the histogram, click on the histogram, the minimum. So we see the minimum here is at 1. So you change that minimum to 1, and you can change the maximum to 10. You can also increase the units of the step size. So at the moment you see it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So you can make it 2. You can make it 2.5. 2.5. There we go, 2.5. 5, for example. But always choose something appropriate. 1 is quite appropriate for this situation. Okay, now our graph fills the whole area. But importantly, the one in Word did not update because we changed the one in Excel. So we can delete the one in Word. Goodness. And we can put our newly updated one there. Make sure it's nicely centered. Of course, now that you've done it this way around, you can make it smaller. You can make it bigger, wider, taller, scrunch it in, depending on what you need for your formatting. And yeah, I think that covers quite broadly how to format a graph in Excel and make it very nice and pretty. Alternatively, remember, you don't have to make everything colors, you can make them black. You make this black, and you can say you want no fill on your markers, for example. Okay, this is not really necessary for the rest of the exercise, but you get the idea. And you can also graph certain other things, and then you can make it nice and pretty. Remember to play around with the fonts, all sorts of things that you can do once you've done that. The boldness, the italicized, the color. You can change all those kinds of things. Okay, please have fun, please explore, and make beautiful graphs for CMY 382. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed this, learned something. And in the next video, we're going to look at how to manipulate data and then just carry it over to a graph. Typical manipulations that you're going to need for 382. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.